Alright, this is number 3 from the SSS. For number 3, we are given sine x over 2 plus cosine x minus 1 equals 0. Now x over 2 is a double angle, so we are going to be plugging in our double angle formula, which is radical 1 minus cosine over 2. Then the rest of the equation. Alright, now that we have that, we're going to move cosine of x and 1 to this side of the equation, leaving us with 1 minus cosine of x over 2. Don't forget your radical, equals negative cosine of x plus 1 on the right side. Now, we need to get rid of this radical. So what we're going to do is we're going to square both sides. And remember, when you square both sides, at the end of the problem, you must check for extraneous solutions. So, this is going to be 1 minus cosine over 2 equals cosine squared plus 1. Now that you have that, we're going to get rid of the denominator by multiplying both sides by 2. So those 2's cancel. You now have 1 minus cosine of x equals 2 cosine x squared plus 2. Alright, now we're just going to move everything to one side. So we're going to subtract 1 and add cosine. It's best to move all this stuff to this side because you don't want a negative square. That's going to be too complicated. So now we have 2 cosine x squared plus cosine x plus 1. Now we need to factor that out. We're going to be using the u substitution, so 2u squared plus u plus 1. Easier to rewrite it like that. That way it's easier to factor out. So it's going to be 2u plus 1 times u plus 1. When you FOIL that, you should get that. Then just go ahead and replace the u's back to your cosine. Now that you have those two, that's going to equal 0. Now you're going to say each one of those equal to 0. So we have 2 cosine of x plus 1 equals 0, and cosine of x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 from here. We have 2 cosine of x equals negative 1. Divide the 2. We have cosine equals negative 1/2. Now over here, subtract 1. We have cosine of x equaling negative 1. Now, cosine of negative 1/2, that is at 120 degrees and 240 degrees. While cosine of negative 1 is at 180 degrees. We are basically done with the problem, but now we have to check for extraneous solutions. So we're going to check those and see if they actually go. Because when you do check for extraneous solutions, they all could be extraneous, 2 of them could be extraneous, 1 of them could be, maybe none of them. That is why you have to check. So we're going to be plugging this all our information back into our original equation we were given. It's an x right there. Alright. So now, first we're going to check 120 degrees. Now we're just going to plug that in. So it'll be sine of 60 plus cosine of 120 minus 1 equals 0. And if this does equal 0, then it's correct. If it doesn't, then it's extraneous. So, sine of 60 is radical 3 over 2. That's a 3. Plus negative 1/2 over 2 minus 1 equals 0. That doesn't equal 0, so 120 is extraneous. Now let's check 180. So sine of 90 degrees plus cosine of 240 minus 1 equals 0. Sine of 90 is 1 plus that negative 1 minus 1 equals 0. That doesn't equal 0, so this is also extraneous. Now for our last one, 240. So we have sine of 120 plus cosine of 240 minus 1 equals 0. Sine of 120 is radical 3 over 2 plus cosine of 240, which is negative 1 over 2 minus 1 equals 0. That does not equal 0, so all of your solutions are extraneous.